To bring in William Booth in Ipswich, England. He's a lecturer on Latin America history at the University College London. Thanks so much for speaking to us. So Della Espriella is promising an economic miracle once he takes office. But with inflation near 6%, can he actually afford to cut corporate taxes right now?
I think he's going to find himself in a very similar bind to Milei in Argentina. Actually, they face very similar issues, although inflation in Colombia is not nearly as high as it was in Argentina. He's taking a gamble on two things. One is if he reduces, for instance, the involvement of China in Colombia's economy, whether he can make up that shortfall by attracting foreign investment, and whether that the kind of investment that he's looking for, particularly around hydrocarbons, particularly around fracking, is going to be socially possible, because these are hugely contentious moves. The state privatization idea as well will have significant impacts in unemployment, and that could cause further social unrest.
And because of that social unrest and the fears of it, because he won by a really razor-thin margin, it shows how divided the country is. When he does come into power, in terms of passing through any legislation, is he going to able to actually get it through Parliament, because that too is divided?
Yeah, that's going to be really difficult for him. He's not going to be able to push this through in a standard manner through legislation. And he's already said in the run-up to the election that he plans to rule effectively by decree. There are several other hard-right Latin American leaders who are taking this approach, and he's particularly emulating Noboa in Ecuador here. But that's, again, risky, because what it means is that although he can start to get things done quickly, and this is true of Trump actually as well, you can find that those decrees then get tied up in court disputes for months or maybe even years, and will find themselves eventually reversed.
Colombia's gas reserves are stuck at a two-decade low. How quickly can the country scale up its import infrastructure before it faces severe domestic energy shortages?
Well, they can probably scale up infrastructure to a certain extent, although that's expensive. And one of the things that he was promising was a move towards more self-sufficiency in energy. And this is why the emphasis on fracking is there. Though, as I said, that's going to be very unpopular in certain areas of the country, and certain areas of the country that probably voted for Cepeda. Areas that are defined by very well organized environmental and land defenders, who are now very worried about what this new government is going to do, and whether their rights will be restricted. So I think, again, it's going to all be in the implementation, whether they're going to carry this stuff through. He's talking about governing for all Colombians, but just a couple of weeks ago, he was accusing the opposition of being cockroaches. He was saying he was going to disembowel the left. So who knows whether he's going to be able to bridge that gap politically, because, of course, he's not a politician.
He isn't a politician. Someone who is, of course, is Gustavo Petro, the president who's been in charge for the last few years. How have his policies changed the economic landscape of Colombia?
Well, there's been quite a rebalancing in some ways. So there have been emphases on certain aspects of social spending that have been popular with a lot of people. And some of those things, De la Espriella has said that he's not going to reverse, because he knows that those are popular. And that's going to make it difficult for him to cut fiscal spending as well. Of course, there are lots of other things about Petro's politics, and also his personal style, his communicative style, that have alienated some Colombians and also some international players. So it's going to be very interesting to see how De la Espriella tries to construct new alliances. He's obviously got this core of other Latin American right-wing leaders and Donald Trump on his side, and they'll be talking about trade, certainly with the US, but it's unclear whether the US is going to immediately step in with investment to make up for any shortfall caused by China moving out or so on.
That actually feeds into my next question, because when it comes to the regional economic implications, how's this new leadership not only, of course, going to affect Colombia, but its neighbors as well?
Well, it just cements, along with the election we've just had in Peru, a very significant divide now within Latin America, with Mexico and Brazil as two of the largest countries with left-leaning governments, and then a whole series of other hard right governments. But the next electoral cycle could really change all that. It's looking very shaky for Milei coming up to the next election, and we might find in 3 or 4 years that there is another significant swing in the other direction.
William Booth, really appreciate your analysis. Thank you very much.